So when anyone sees me go to talk, they already probably have an idea of the subject matter. So this might be, for those of you that know me, quite a weird change of pace. Now, the reason I started to think about presenting this was because we live in a very interesting time. And I have been confronted a lot, and I don't mean confronted in a negative way, I just mean more than probably ever before. Discussions about faith and especially religion thrown upon me because I have been a believer for 23 plus years of my life. Now the reason I'm here is not to explain my structure, my dogma or theology. I don't want to do that to anyone. My goal here is to help you understand that your soul is worth far more than you could probably imagine, and in fact probably a lot less than you presume. And I will explain what I mean by that dichotomy. And you'll have to understand, I'm just a wee bit nervous for some reason. And I've got over 6,000 hours of classroom instruction in adults under my belt, so the idea of talking about this got me a little antsy. It is not irrational, and it is not illogical to have a belief that you are a soul, that what you are is far more valuable than what you do for a living, what you think, and what you put your energy into. Those of us that have any kind of a structure understand there is a motivating factor behind some of the things that we do. So I thought I would just make it real simple. And I will not be here for very long because I don't think talks like this need to go on for hours. First of all, the reason is I'm only 41. It's interesting a bill collector would call me while I'm speaking. I'm only 41. How many of you guys are in here are 40 or younger? Would you say at this point in your life you've learned everything there is to learn?
No.
Probably not. Now, I'm not going to throw a bunch of absolutes at you. I'm not going to try to present a particular brand or product off the market shelf for you that I think this is the way to do it. I really just want to poke at your head and think, have you ever really stopped to think about it? Have you been buying into that new discourse over the last few years that basically tries to tell you, if you have faith in anything, there's something wrong in your head? We've written books to show that it's just a particular part of the way that your brain functions, and it's just a chemical reaction. You're not rational, and it's not logical. I think that that's completely wrong, and I think it diminishes the value that you, the individual has. So what do you think your value is? Have you guys, how many of you honestly have spent time trying to figure out what is your purpose in life? How many of you guys have spent an enormous amount of energy trying to figure out, why am I here? And I don't even necessarily mean on some huge, deep philosophical level. I mean just, what do I want to do with my life? We're at Gangplank. We're at the hub of forward-thinking entrepreneurs and people who spend an awful lot of energy throwing off old systems and tossing out the old gods and saying, I have an idea of the way I want my life to be. So this is a great audience for these types of questions. You know why you're worth probably less than you presume? A lot of people presume that they don't have a soul, or if they do think about it, they pass that thought quickly and go back to themselves very, very quickly. And I have some ideas and some small theories. And if I think that me standing up here for a half an hour is going to ameliorate 10,000 years of human history and experience and knowledge and study and wisdom and everything else, I'll just tell you, I don't have any answers. So if you get anything from this, it'll probably be even more than I expected. So, and at the end, if you have an enormous Q&A that you want to throw my way, it might be pretty amusing because I won't presume to tell you any answers to your questions. You know why I think there is a conflict? Because people do avoid the topic of their own. I'm just using the word soul as a sort of catchphrase. Do you understand what I mean? I'm using the word soul as sort of an all-encompassing term for just whatever it means to you, that huge metaphysical part of your life that you do or do not take any time to think about. What is one of the biggest industries that we have, especially in the Western world, What has been growing by billions and billions, and I don't necessarily mean just pornography? Self-help. Why do you presume self-help has become such a huge market? What are people looking for when they're doing self-help? What are they trying to help? They're looking for purpose. If they're trying to help themselves, they're looking for their self to have something meaningful. Perhaps there's a void. You know that wonderful catchphrase? They feel a void and they need to do something about it. They know they have these abilities and these skills, but they don't know what to do with them. They know they want to do something more than be a blue-collar schlub and punch a clock and spend the rest of their day thinking that that one generation called the baby boomers, who were the only ones to get this stuff, is not for them anymore. You know why I think the self-help industry is huge? It's because people are somewhere in the back, or whatever it is you want to call it, back of their mind. They know that there's something there called their soul that's going, I don't want to believe in that, so hey, I'm going to supplant the natural connection that we were created to have, and I'm going to go look for it here. I'm going to read as many self-help books and try to find my purpose through my work, through what I create, through what I do, the money that I make. I know these seem like old tropes, but I think that there is a lot of truth to it. I often wondered why I spent so much of my time digging into Jim Rohn and Maxwell and all these guys, getting fired up, and then some part of me inside is just like thrilled when I hear this amazing, I can't do that, that's thumping. I hear this amazing advice from people. And I'm really flubbing up this speech of mine. You guys okay so far? You laughing at me? It's okay. Somebody had to do it, and I figured why not be me? I'm actually looking at my notes and giving you dead air. Isn't that an exciting thing? Speaking from the heart, guys, you are amazing. Do you have any idea how amazing we are? Our very existence, what we are, is not a purposeful or a purposeless accident. I don't believe that. And there's reasons why I don't believe it, and I'm not talking about necessarily scientifically, because I'm fully behind a lot of what's been going on. Any of you guys see the recent discussion with Krauss and Dawkins at ASU's Damage Auditorium? It's online now. You really ought to check it out. Because a lot of my friends, as I said earlier, the confrontations I'm getting lately are because so many really amazingly brilliant people are taking the time through science to come up with some amazing things. There's a book out now basically called Something from Nothing. Amazingly profound. And if you haven't looked into it, I recommend it. So then you think, well, what about stuff like that? I'm trying to find my purpose, but these guys are saying, we've got the math and the science to show you came from nothing. I don't know what to do without that. What I could do about that, because as I will continue on, there's some things that have happened with me. Your very existence, guys, I think our very existence is amazing. It's exciting. How many of you guys have children? Is there anything you wouldn't do for those kids? Why did you have the children? What technically was, beside just not going extinct, and I don't assume a lot of you were that full of Asperger's syndrome to where you sat down with your biology mate and said, we need to not be extinct, we should procreate. Why did you have children? What was the purpose of that act of creation?
Give more purpose to your life.
Love.
Give me more purpose to your life.
Leaving a legacy.
A legacy. Love.
Love.
Things that are intangible, perhaps maybe a little illogical. I can tell you this much. I don't necessarily know why my wife and I created these beautiful little kids, but I wouldn't change it for anything. What is it that you all have and I have with all of you? And I'm not talking some deep metaphysical connection. I'm not talking about the particles and the atoms and the quantum fluxes and all those interesting things. What is it that we are all in Gangplank to have? Why are we not sitting in our home office? Why are we here? Connection. What are those connections called? What's the simplest term that we can come up with?
Community.
Relationships, correct? I propose that you maybe spend a little time thinking that beyond all of the weird questions you could ask, and they're rational. There's no such thing as a dumb question, I suppose. But if there is a purpose and a reason and a value to you as an individual, perhaps it might behoove you to think, why? What would be the motivation of creation? Why would something profound beyond our comprehension take the time to have us? It's not irrational to take the time to think about that. I think the reason why a lot of times people miss it is they forget. There is a relationship issue involved. And when you get very purpose-driven, you can become somewhat detached from the relationship aspect. That's why I think Gangplank's amazing. I got sick of sitting in my office, having a relationship with my chair and my desk. I don't get a lot of feedback from everything that I programmed to be the certain way in my environment that I want it. So, conflict. Have you guys ever stopped to wonder, why is it that the talk or the discussion of religion makes people absolutely nuts? Have you ever stopped to wonder, why is it that that becomes such a huge problem? Literally, if I were to come up here and just yell about politics, a wonderful use of your time, to come up and debate which party is perfect and the other one's a complete and utter failure, and then the next one gets elected, and that one's perfect and the other one's a failure, and on we go. I could do that, and we could have a big argument and go, oh, he's a lefty, oh, he's a right-wing nut. But then most people will go on with their day and not think much of it. If I came up here and started to tell you stories of Ganesh, or talk about any of the other faiths or any of the beliefs, it would probably make you uncomfortable. Have you ever wondered why? So I believe first, you're ignoring your soul and running off to self-help. What's happening is your soul is wanting those things, but you can have that naturally. So you try to put the wall up and go, I don't believe in that, even though technically from a person who believes, whether or not you believe it is relevant, because I believe that it's there regardless of what you choose to call it. So you're trying to find your purpose, the same exact purpose you would find if you turned the other way. How much more meaningful and significant do you think that that would be if you found it the way you were meant to find it? And then secondly, you know why I think everyone gets uncomfortable? Because that's that part of them that's not being taken care of. How many of you are in relationships? A woman and a man and a man, a woman and a woman, whatever the case is. Have you guys ever had a conflict in your relationship?
What time is it?
Yeah. Which conflict is it now? When you are in a relationship and there is something unresolved under the surface, do you want to go talk about it? Why? What's going to happen if you bring it up? I think we could work this out. Hey, I'd like to talk about that, and guess what's going to happen? So what do? It's almost like having cancer. I think the reason why people get so uncomfortable when you talk about issues of belief is because they've got this enormous conflict with the very essence of who they are. And they know if you start talking about it, they might have to start thinking about it, and it drives them nuts. Why do you suppose Tim Tebow gets all of this drama, and another NFL player might just point at the sky after a touchdown and not get any flack? Why do you think that might be? I have a theory. When you just simply point at the sky after you accomplish something, what does that show that you believe?
Something bigger.
Throw it out there. Something, right? I'm pointing to something. I believe in the moon god. Myth Rob, thank you for the touchdown. If somebody kneels in the grass and puts their knuckles to the ground and their other fist to their forehead, what are they doing? What do they believe? They believe in something much more absolute, don't they? It's one thing for your happy Saturday or Monday night or Sunday afternoon entertainment to have sort of a general acknowledgement that there might be something there. Yes, we can all say that. Yeah, I kind of believe there's something there. Fair enough. But as soon as you have somebody kneel down, they have subjected themselves to something greater than themselves in an absolute fashion. And that's like, don't bring that up. It'll just make us fight. I don't want to fight. she's nuts. You can't bring it up. It'll never be talked about. It'll never be settled. I just have to live with it. That's why I think people get crazy about religion. And then, of course, there's just plain ignorance and stupidity. I won't deny that there is a huge element of the human population that, to whom faith and religion is simply behavior modification. And they've assigned themselves to a certain set of rules that are probably no different or better than maybe another set of rules. They just call this one this particular belief. And if you try to have irrational discussion with them, it is impossible. Have you guys met them? That type of dogmatic absolutism is why I think I don't have any problem or lack of empathy for those that often ignore this entire part of their life because there is this massive amount of ignorance in the society around us. I completely understand why Bill Maher will create a documentary called Religulous, or whatever they pronounce it. I completely understand why Dawkins can say some of the things that he says to people who have faith and belief. Because when you hear some of the things that believers say in return, you almost wish that there really was nothing else. You hear something so dumb and you're thinking, how can people be so stupid? But I want to keep this back to the one issue about relationships and personal things. The conflict, I believe, happens because you know that there's something deeply and meaningful and significantly purposeful about your being here that isn't being addressed. And you know that if you start addressing it, it's going to pick at stuff. I'm not saying that it's not irrational. I'm not saying that it's not respectful. I have nothing but respect for what everyone believes. But I often have enough, if you would say, faith that what I believe and I've experienced is greater than having to worry about trying to ameliorate everyone's particular thoughts. That's not my job. Nor is it of anyone who I think has any particular beliefs. If you have anything you want to say in the middle of it, feel free. I'll probably just shake my head, yeah, probably. So, why do you think we fight it? Why do you think we fight our soul?
Ego.
Ego. What else? I just don't believe it. Isn't that good enough? It is good enough. What else? Why do you think people fight it?
Scared?
Yeah, it's scary. How many of you run to the idea immediately? I want you, an enormously successful, highly intelligent, amazing business person. I want you to go to something completely immaterial, something you can't test in a lab, something you can't prove in the scientific theory, and subject yourself to it, and in fact subordinate yourself to it, and do it in faith. What rational mind thinks, hey, that sounds like a great idea, I'm going to do that right away? May I propose to you that perhaps there's a little bit more to that? It's not that black and white. The acknowledgement of something far greater that has a purpose and a creative plan for you is not something you should be afraid of. How many of you are happy with what you do, just out of curiosity? When you look at what you're doing with your life, I love what I do. I can't tell you in any amount of words how much I love what I do. I believe what I was given as a gift at 4 years old, in apartment 2G in Rolling Meadows, Illinois. I think it was February 12th, 1974. My mother said to me while we were drawing little felt tip marker posters, have you seen those in the early 70s, that we just bought at the Woodfield Mall? We just pulled up into our crappy little, they called it the Rolling Ghettos apartments. If anyone's ever been in Rolling Meadows, Illinois, behind the freeway system right by the toll road, there's this ocean of 3-story apartment complexes. Ghetto kid, yeah. She says, you're a pretty good artist. Ding. That's been it for the rest of my life. If I were to be told that my creator, another quick use term, my creator, and I'm saying this wide open to you assigning whatever structure, belief, or faith you have to the word my creator, words my creator. If I were to have been told, my creator knew I would love art with all of my soul, and gave it to me as a purpose. Would you say that diminished your purpose? Would you say that looking at the quality of your life and surrendering the fact that perhaps it wasn't all you that got you there, does that diminish how amazing what you do is? I think it's interesting to think that perhaps you should stop being uncomfortable, look for self-help perhaps in a different direction, and even if it's just a little at a time, you might find something pretty profound about your real purpose. Now, here's another connection. If you find something that you really love, and you do it, and you get to do it for a living, and it's generating income from you, for you, it's helping your family, do you think there's a conflict between the two, or is there an amazing harmony? I think the issue is, guys, we all think we're so damn smart. And I'm not saying that we're not smart. I'm not saying that we are not enormously intelligent. But to die on the hill, plant your flag at your young age, my young age, and just stomp your feet and say, I just don't believe this. What have we yet to discover? What have we yet to find? And I'm not diminishing the work of some of the most amazing science that's going on right now. And I can discuss these things too. I'm not foreign to them. And they're not oblivious to me as I present this. But if you think, how long have we had really the miracle of our scientific method creating the society that we have and the civilization that we have compared to how long humankind has been around? After all the time that I've spent arguing, discussing, and debating about all these different points, there's something that happens in me that takes all of that and just puts it in a different place. I feel like I'm in connection with my purpose. I feel like that what I do is what my Creator had intended for me. And if there's that kind of an intention, think of your own kids. I think of mine. What do most parents that are actually decent parents do for their kids as they develop? They try to find things that they're into. They try to find what their talents are. They try to find, as we all like to say, what their gifts are. It's amazing we can use the word gifts and then deny that there's a gift giver. But we have children who have something profound that we want them to have. What is the ceiling we want to put on top of our kids? Is there one? No. Sky's the limit, kid. Oh, the amazing places you will go. What is it in us that does that for our children? What is it that we want to have with our children for the entire duration of our lives? It's a relationship, isn't it not? Why do you find that special someone and devote yourself to them with your heart and soul? Why do you invest yourself into another human being with such depth and profundity that it's almost embarrassing in your own social circles to show really just how much they mean to you? That same motivating emotion is exactly what I believe our Creator exercises in giving us, the things that give our soul value. If there's something that's that profound, conscious, on a magnitude beyond our ability to understand, somewhere outside of time and infinity, whatever that means, actively stepping outside of that cloud of the unimaginable and saying, I'll bet you would really be great at inspiring other people to do their best. Whatever little genie thing, ding, and all of a sudden there it is. Look at what we have as a civilization, worldwide, all of the civilizations. What are some of the most profound things that we have in expressions of these things that people have experienced? Ladies and gentlemen, I do not believe that you can detach your soul from the amazing things that happen in the world around us. Yes, it is a dirty, ugly, nasty place. There's some horrible things that we do to one another and to ourselves, but it doesn't diminish our greatness either. And as we look at all the horrible things that we do, then we go back to the self-help shelf and we go, oh, I know. I'll take another created person's thoughts and I'll try to add them to myself, and all the while your real was somewhere behind you in the back of your head. Discover that however you think is best. Discover that however much you think is the real way for you. But I guarantee you that if you do connect to it, things will happen to you that will flip your hair back. Those of you that still have flippable things to put up there. I challenge all of you to embrace it. It isn't illogical. It is not irrational. There are some things that I can just put simply one, just sort of as we called it, the wind up. We're looking for our purpose and our, I mean, how many of you have seen Good Will Hunting? What was the big fight at the end? What do you want to do with your life, Will? And he couldn't answer it, and it made him crazy that he had to be confronted with that thought. Have you guys ever been crazy about being asked, why are you here? What is it you really want to do? How many of you spend most of your time and energy in the back of your head, in addition to doing what you're doing now, thinking, maybe I really want to do this, maybe you want to do that? How many of you consider yourself Renaissance people? You poor people. I know how much of a torture that is. I've got friends that are Renaissance, it makes them crazy. I feel in a lot of ways figuring out what I wanted to do before was like dodging a bullet for the rest of my life. I feel very fortunate in that regard. I'll put it this way. I, myself, the individual.
When you talk about, I'm brand new here, I just kind of walked in on your thing, but some of your premises are a little shaky for me, but when you talk about what do you want to be, you can change what you want to be through maybe you started at 4 being, okay, I'm going to be an artist, and you follow that train, but most of us, even especially older, you're not limited to just what do I want to be when I'm 4. You have that, there's a progression in life where you can do lots of things.
Oh, sure.
And, so I think it's just, I guess you kind of lost me in that.
Well, I'll be honest, like I said, I don't have
to what do you want to be.
ultimate answers. It's not my bag. It's between you and your soul. However much you can do with yourself, there is no ceiling. I just feel like I found what I wanted, and I'm happy as a peach. And for my kids, if they want to do 50 things and do them all amazingly well, no ceiling on them. Yes?
Can I just add to that? I mean, I'm with you on everything. There's no reason why what you're meant to do doesn't change throughout your life.
Sure.
Things,
I know people that went from one profession to another,
yeah,
and they did amazing things.
What feels good, you're always going the right direction, And, and you can be, I know people who were doctors because they really felt they wanted to help people. Then all of a sudden, it got hard for them, and they decided to be a musician. And that's what felt right. So you can change. It's just being open to the idea. If you're open to the idea, it'll open up to you.
And all of this is a discussion.
I believe that we all have a purpose that we've been uniquely created to fulfill. And so when you look at the things that you're passionate about, and you look at the talents that you have, and even the things that happen in your life, good or bad, they've equipped you to be able to fulfill that purpose. Now, how you walk that out may be different. Your purpose as an artist, it could have been, having your own business. It could have been being a commercial artist within a company. It could be teaching art, and none of those could have been wrong. But your purpose is to be an artist, is to create. And
That's
so
when
we figure out what that is, how we manifest it may be differently, but that purpose, I don't think, changes. And most of us just never even figure out what that is. And that's why there's so many people who are unhappy.
Whatever you need to do to get yourself there, you'll find it. If you're open to, I believe, at least looking at the fact that there's something greater about you beside just what you do for a living. And every one of you has your own. I won't even presume to figure out what that is. And if we wanted to have a real deep discussion about what purpose means, that would be a whole other brown bag for a week series. And that's not mine. I just use the word purpose as sort of an all-encompassing sort of Smurf word.
I was just saying, my new favorite movie is Hugo. If you haven't seen it, it's fabulous. There's one part in it where the little boy makes a statement that says, I think the world, or he was talking about his dad. His dad believed that the world was like one big machine. And what's neat about that is that machines don't have extra parts. That means that every person in this world has a purpose. They just may not know what it is.
What I love about the discussion more than anything is all of you have an idea of what it means. Go for it, because I just have an idea of what it means to me. And if any of what I'm saying means anything to you, opens up any thoughts in your head, more than anything, there's two things that I'm really bothered by about the last few years. One, I do not enjoy listening to people bag on people that have faith, as if they're irrational and they're just somewhat ignorant. When I look at somebody who's maybe between their late 20s, maybe even to their early 50s, with that much certainty where they can judge another human being, which is an irony because usually they're judgmental towards faith because people of faith have been judgmental towards them. So they're just basically returning the favor in one big sort of cycle of immaturity and illogic. But I just don't like the fact that people can feel so comfortable planting their flag on the hill of absolutes and go, I'm 40. I know so much. I know everything there is to know. There will never be another discovery because mankind has shown we've already figured it all out. We can go, boop, there's my flag. I never have to budge another inch. My brain and my mind is made up and there's nothing that can move it. Fine. That's not my job. Figure if you didn't want to hear what I had to say too, pick your own brown bag and refute me. It'll be a fun day. I have no problem with that. But here's what I wanted to wind it up with. The reason why I can very comfortably enjoy what it is that's motivating me is because I've experienced it. When you have personal experiences, when you have a profound experience, when you discover something so much greater than yourself that's willing to take whatever you consider that process from the unknowable to the material to where you are and go, I like you, let's do something. I don't know how to get rid of that. And it wasn't just a chemical reaction in my head. Well, yes, it was, because that's all we are, is chemistry and electricity and water. But that's the process that I believe we were created to have. So if it happens within what we have, then no big surprise. But you could no more tell me that there is not something working purposefully, intentionally, from a realm of the incomprehensible to us here in the completely comprehensible and measurable. Any more than you can tell me that I have not experienced my wife. It's that personal for me. It's different for everybody. That's why it's called the individual. And that's why I think the individual is what really makes all of the difference. These words, I think, are some of the closest words a human being could have created that I think are in the realm of the miraculous. We were endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among them were life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I don't want you guys, and I don't want the state to be the one who determines my value. We've all heard all the various discussions about what the Founding Fathers believed or didn't believe. Oh, they were deists, they weren't Christian. This isn't a... Skip it. How many of you guys have ever lost somebody? How many of you guys have brothers or sisters and you all shared in the loss of a loved one? In my little brown bag thing I wrote, why don't people on their deathbed ask, what about the pygmies? Do you know what I mean by that? It's an anecdotal sort of a comment. What it means is usually when you confront people with the idea of belief or faith, they quickly want to, no. They point at you, shut up, you're not there. It's like their imaginary friend, their soul. And they go, I have been hurt by religion in the past. Not taking that away, some of you have been probably profoundly hurt by religion in the past. Going back to the stupid people comment I made earlier. Have you ever lost somebody? When you're watching, I've had the experience of watching 4 of my dearest loved ones over the course of my young life pass away on their deathbed, surrounded by their loved ones. I don't remember a single one of them saying, yeah, but you never said sorry for that time you wouldn't let me ride the horse. When you are connected, when you have a relationship, and you miss somebody, what is it that you would give anything to have more of? Have time with them again, right? How many of you seen those amazing videos of children being surprised, family and loved ones being surprised by soldiers coming home? Imagine if that was you, waiting for your soul when your soul runs up to you. Imagine that kind of a, sort of a reunion. Could be. I feel like I've had that a few times. If you've been hurt by other things, you'll often have to stop to think, I'm the individual, endowed by my Creator, certain unalienable rights. I'm just proud to death to know all of you guys, and I'm amazed by this place that we have here, that we get to share this time together. Grateful that you didn't throw any eggs or anything at me. If you have questions for me, like I said, I'll probably just kind of laugh and go, whatever you have in mind is probably right. I have enough faith in my Creator to ameliorate your issues and lead you on the direction you want to go if you really want to go there. Yes?
So, have you always had your faith throughout your life, or was there an event in your life that...
I wish I could say, like the storybooks, that there was some profound event where I was in a car accident or laying in the trench in Iraq. I called out and the dove came down and there was a beam of light. There's nothing like that. I think it just became a slow process, which may sound discouraging, but believe it or not, I think, how long does it take to develop a deep relationship with somebody you care about? However long it takes, right? Everyone's different. I fell in love right away. And then we dated for 9 years before we got married. Okay. That's a weird relationship. For me anyway, it doesn't have to be for you. However long it takes you to get in touch with that is how long it takes you. If you're open to it, you'll find it. I believe that very much. And I think I've gone, what, 35 minutes?
Good. I have a question.
Yes.
Earlier in the talk, you said, you asked reasons why we fight our soul. Soul being
Whatever
faith,
it means to you,
whatever
yes.
you want to put into it. And some of the reasons were because ego, don't believe it, fear. Well, couldn't ego and fear, I mean, you just flip it. A lot of people just give it up to faith, give it up in quotes, give it up to faith because they're afraid or they're egos and they just want to.
Yeah. Well, every human being is a massive, complex bag of water and snot, and good Lord, I mean, how complicated are we? It's amazing how complicated we are. Whatever it is that gets people there, a lot of times there's just enormous amounts of stuff in the way. So if you want to think of anything else, perhaps, if you're really going to look for this stuff, then you've got to try to sort of unpack your own stuff. I do like that comment, like people say, well, religion's just a crutch. Well, maybe it is. What about you? Are you codependent? Have you put all your hope and faith into another human being? What if that person that you devoted yourself to wasn't there anymore to make you Cheerios and, wash your clothes for you? Is that your crutch? It's easy to find someone else's crutch when you're leaning on your own. It gives you a better view because you can kind of lean in on their own life a little bit and stick your nose in further, right? Every one of us has something that we got to get out of the way. The best way, though, I think, is to figure it out, is to just start acknowledging that maybe there is something there. And the final thing I'd like to just end it with is if you were created, if you are here for a purpose and a reason, if there is the same parental sort of a relationship and connection going on with whatever it is that you ascribe that to, I don't think that it wants you to just to run amok and have no accountability to it. Then that might be the biggest fear of all. Wait a minute, if I acknowledge this, I might be subordinating myself to something that I choose not to. Well, then again, if you really start to become more in touch with what you really are, how could you say no? You know what I mean? It drives me nuts when I hear people say, I'm not going to share that crap with my kids. And you're what, 25, and you've got it all figured out? You can now take, what, 20,000 years of human history and experience and just call them crap. I'm going to do my best to make sure my children never have that ability to connect to their purpose, their value, to find their significance. Because I know so much that I'm going to pass that on. I'm not telling you how to raise your kids. Just consider if you find something that means a lot to you, you might change your mind a little bit. Anyhow, self-help comes from somewhere. You get nervous about this stuff because it's a relationship issue you don't want to address because you're just getting into a big fight. And finally, what is it you really are afraid of? So whatever they come up with, whatever science comes up with, and I love science, makes us all alive right now. Science is an amazing thing. And too many people that I believe are really just bag on science like it was something evil while they take aspirin and drive a car. You know what I'm saying? But nothing can take from me the experience that I've had. Nobody can tell me that me and my maker didn't meet any more than somebody could say, you're not wearing that shirt today and you don't have a computer. I got evidence. You can bring it on, I just don't know what it's going to do for me. It's kind of nice to have that sort of certainty because relationships, I think, trump our interesting little material world that we live in. Of course, the experiences can be go. People with their wiring off can have experiences that don't really exist, like hearing sounds and smelling things that aren't there. That's a different discussion. Anyhow, I'm done with my talk. If you ever want to talk about it more, I'm just sitting over there probably about my purpose. So, anything else?
Any more questions?
Should be interesting. Are there any actual questions?
All right. Well, thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you, guys.
Very much.
Thanks, Jeremy.